A ray of hope. A ray of hope is on the horizon because the sun's shining today. And that means that we can get vitamin D if we're in the right part of the Earth's atmosphere. I'm Dr. Megan, the Prednisone Pharmacist, and I'm here to talk about vitamin D and what a miraculous thing it is for us. That the sun helps us make it in our bodies, and that it might be what really helps us to fight infections. So I'm giving you this information today because I read it from the Harvard doctors. They said that there's new research that just came out. I'm going to quote them directly, and it says, the prevalence of vitamin D deficiency was much higher among those with severe COVID illness compared with those with mild illness. It's saying that people who got the very sickest had vitamin D deficiency. And so does it mean that if you supplement vitamin D that you'll do better? Actually, there's research done by the British Medical Journal. It was published 2 years ago, so this isn't since COVID-19, but it showed that for respiratory tract infections like COVID-19, there was a 12% reduction among participants who had a profound deficiency. And if you gave back the vitamin D, they had a 70% lower risk of respiratory infection when they were supplementing. So that's huge. Like, that could be the difference between life and death. I am just thrilled about this because vitamin D is cheap. You can just go outside and be in the sun, and it's totally free as long as you're doing it the right time of day. So how do you know when you can actually get vitamin D? Well, there's this cool app my friend told me about called D Timer. And you give it permission to know your location, and it'll tell you exactly when the sun is in the sky to give you vitamin D. And if you tell it how much skin you are exposing, it'll tell you exactly how long you need to stay out there for optimum levels and when to stop so that you can not get a sunburn, because you can stay out, get vitamin D, and not get a sunburn if you time it just right. You can still protect yourself from the worst ways of getting skin cancer and get vitamin D. It is possible. So that's the first and easiest free way to get vitamin D. And it's really the best way. You can also eat vitamin D. There's vitamin D fortified foods like orange juice and milk. There's a few foods like mackerel and salmon, and even some kinds of eggs have vitamin D in them. Depends on where the chicken was, whether they were able to free range or not. And so you can get it from food, but you really can't get enough from food. And so that brings us to supplementing. Most Americans, we live a high enough latitude that we need to supplement unless we are getting enough sunlight. And so you should use vitamin D3 if you are going to be supplementing. Now, vitamin D3 you can get as a standalone pill all by itself for really cheap at any grocery store, pharmacy, anywhere. It's really easy to get. You don't need to be supplementing anything else if that's the only reason you're doing it. But if you are taking prednisone or any other steroid, you should be taking calcium with the vitamin D, because the doctors who prescribe prednisone the most, the rheumatologists, they say that everyone on prednisone for a certain amount of time and at a certain dose should be taking calcium and vitamin D every day while they're taking prednisone. And this is because prednisone causes osteoporosis. And so if you take vitamin D while you are on prednisone, you're not only helping your bone health to maintain your spine and all your other little bones so that they don't get lost and thin and crack and break, and compressed and the little hunched over look of a old woman with osteoporosis. But number 2 is you're helping your immune system to give you the best chance to fight the infection, because prednisone on its own steals vitamin D. So you can use just over-the-counter vitamin D, and it will help you to fight those 2 things. I have another way to get vitamin D that I created specifically for people on prednisone. It's called Nutranize Zone. And you can take 2 in the morning and 2 at bedtime. And these give you the vitamins that prednisone is stealing, because prednisone steals 10 specific nutrients. So if you take this with the prednisone, you fight back against how prednisone is stealing. You'll follow those evidence-based guidelines from the rheumatologists, and you'll be giving your immune system the best chance possible. Signing off as Dr. Megan, your prednisone pharmacist.